Welcome to the Baboom Baboom podcast, your go-to source for expert tips on car stereo installation, vehicle wiring, and all things wiring related. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just getting started, we've got the advice to help you power up your ride. Get ready to crank up the volume on your knowledge and make your next wiring project a success.
We've all been there, right? Like that moment when your favorite song is just, like, really blaring, and then pfft, it's like someone let a swarm of bees loose in your dashboard. That, my friend, is the dreaded ground loop noise. And yeah, it's totally here to, like, kill your car audio vibe. But hey, the good news is we can fight back. Today, we're taking a deep dive into banishing that buzz with some, like, expert intel from our friends at Baboom Baboom. Their blog post, Identify and Fix Ground Loop Noise in Car Audio Systems. That's like our weapon of choice for this deep dive.
Yeah, it's crazy how such a common problem can totally wreck your audio experience.
Yeah.
You spend all this time, all this money on a sweet setup, and bam, annoying hum.
The worst. It's like they say, you got to know your enemy, right? So let's break down what ground loop noise actually is. Like, why is it messing with our tunes?
Basically, it all comes down to electricity and how it flows. You see, your car's chassis, it acts as a common ground for all your audio components. But sometimes there's this difference in electrical potential. Think of it like a voltage mismatch between, say, your head unit and your amp. And that creates a loop in the electrical flow.
Okay, so the electricity gets, like, a little lost.
Exactly. And that loop, it becomes an antenna. It picks up all sorts of unwanted noise from your engine and other electronics. And then that noise, it gets amplified along with your music. That's what creates that buzzing or humming sound.
So how do we even know if this is what's messing up our audio? The folks at Baboom Baboom have some, like, detective work for us.
Well, the first clue is the hum itself. Does it change pitch or intensity when your engine revs? That's a telltale sign of a ground loop issue. But to be sure, we need to do a little process of elimination, almost like a mechanic troubleshooting your engine.
Ooh, I love a good mystery. So we start disconnecting parts of the system one by one.
You got it. Start with your amp, disconnect it, and see if the noise disappears. If it does, bingo. Your amp, or its wiring, is the likely suspect. If the hum's still there, move on to the next component and repeat until you find the source of the problem.
Like a game of audio Clue. Wait, there's more to this detective work, right?
Yeah.
They mentioned, like, visually inspecting those ground connections, too.
Oh, absolutely. A loose wire, corrosion, or components grounded in different spots, those can all mess things up. You want to make sure everything is connected to a clean, bare metal surface on the chassis, no paint or rust. Think of it like making sure your electrical pathways are clear, free of any roadblocks.
And just to be extra sure, they suggest using a test speaker connected directly to the amp. If that annoying hum is still there, then you know the issue runs deeper in the system. Okay, enough with the diagnosis. Let's talk solutions. Luckily, Baboom Baboom doesn't leave us hanging. They've got, get this, not one, but 7 ways to silence that annoying hum. 7. I was impressed too, honestly. It's like they compiled this whole arsenal for battling ground loop noise, which just shows how common and fixable it really is.
Music to my ears, literally. So where do we start? Should we, tackle the simplest fixes first?
Sounds like a plan. Let's begin with what's often the most effective solution. Regrounding. Remember how we talked about a clean, solid ground connection? This is where it all comes together.
Time to break out the toolbox.
Well, it might involve a little DIY, but trust me, it's worth it. Make sure all your components are grounded to the same spot on the car chassis, using a nice thick wire for good measure. We'll talk more about wire gauge and why it matters in a bit, but for now, just know that a solid, clean ground connection can work wonders.
Think of it like this. You wouldn't build a house on shaky foundations, right? Same goes for your car audio. Solid ground, solid sound. Okay, I like it. But let's say, you've tried that whole regrounding thing, and that buzz is, still there, still haunting your speakers. Don't worry. The Baboom Baboom folks have got another trick, Exactly. For, a more plug-and-play solution, there's the ground loop isolator. You can grab one of these at any car audio shop, and they're pretty simple to install. You basically put it between your head unit and your amp. And it acts like this little electrical peacekeeper.
So it's like breaking up the loop, right? Stopping that noise from even getting to our speakers.
Exactly. It's a noise bodyguard for your audio signal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are actually different types of isolators out there. You might even see something called a noise filter. They basically do the same thing, but a noise filter, it tends to be a bit more heavy duty. If you're dealing with, really stubborn noise, a noise filter might be the way to go.
Good to know we've got options. This is starting to feel less like a deep dive and more like we're assembling this noise-canceling arsenal. Okay, but let's say we're feeling, ambitious. What if we want to go beyond these fixes and, like, really level up our car audio game?
Need top-quality electrical wire? Baboom Baboom's got you covered. Get your six-pack today. Each combo comes in 6 different colors and a total of 600 feet of wire. Perfect for any project, and you won't find a better price in the industry. Head over to baboombaboom.com now to snag yours. That's baboombaboom.com.
I like where your head's at. The article gets into some great upgrade strategies. First, let's talk about wire gauge. Remember how we mentioned using a thick wire for regrounding? Well, it applies to your whole system.
Okay, ELI 5, time wire gauge. What's the deal?
Okay, so think of it like this. A garden hose versus a fire hose. You'll get way more water through that fire hose, and with way less effort, right? Thicker wire, it's like the fire hose for your electricity. It lets the current flow more freely, which means there's less chance of noise sneaking in. Baboom, baboom. They recommend at least 16 gauge wire. But upping it to 14 or even 12 gauge for your power wires, that can make a big difference, especially if you've got a powerful amp.
So thicker wire, less resistance, clearer signal. Got it. Now, what about those RCA cables? Honestly, mine are like a tangled mess back there.
RCA cables, another common noise culprit. 2 big things to keep in mind, shielding and length. Shielding is super important because it's like a barrier. It stops stray electrical signals from messing with the music signal going through the cable. Think of it like noise-canceling headphones, but for your wires.
Okay, makes sense. So better shielding equals cleaner signal.
Exactly. And then there's cable length. Longer cables, they just pick up more interference. Plus, the signal itself can actually degrade over longer distances. So if you can, try to keep your RCA cables short and direct, and obviously invest in quality cables with good shielding. It might cost a bit more up front, but it'll save you so much headache and earache down the line.
So we're upgrading our wires, keeping things tidy. What else? What other tricks do the Baboom Baboom gurus have? I'm so ready to banish this buzz for good.
Well, on top of actually upgrading your components, even just placing them strategically can make a big difference. Baboom Baboom calls this, strategic placement, I guess. It's all about minimizing the chances of interference. How? By physically separating your power and signal wires.
Okay, so less tangled mess and more like organized system. Yeah, get behind that.
Exactly. Imagine this. Your car stereo's wiring is like a highway. Power wires, they're the big trucks. They create a lot of electrical noise, right? Signal wires, like your RCA and speaker wires, those are the sports cars. They need a clear path for best performance. So if you route those power wires on one side of the car and the signal wires on the opposite side, it's like you're making separate lanes, Minimizes interference.
So even the physical layout of our wiring affects our sound, like city planning, but for car audio.
It's all connected. And speaking of noise reduction, there's a gadget for that too. Remember noise filters. Baboom Baboom suggests using a noise filter for your power line as like another line of defense.
Wait, a filter for our power line? Like, is that like a Brita filter, but for electrical buzz? Okay, any details?
I knew you'd like this one. It's obviously not as simple as like changing a water filter, but it's the same basic idea. Even in a brand new car, your car's electrical system can have little inconsistencies, voltage fluctuations. Those inconsistencies can bring noise into your audio system. A power line noise filter, it smooths out those bumps in the electrical road, so your car audio gets a clean, consistent power supply.
Okay, so we're giving our car audio a spa day with this filter. I am so here for it. But one thing I always think about is all our gadgets. Phones, tablets, GPS units, they can be little noise gremlins too.
Well, yeah, the modern dilemma. You're right. All those devices can add noise to your car's electrical system. But luckily, there's solutions for those too. Baboom Baboom recommends using dedicated ground loop isolators, even for those devices. You can find isolators made for like phone chargers, auxiliary inputs, even GPS units.
So we're like giving those gadgets their own little quiet corner.
Pretty much. Or you can go with an isolated power source. Think of those multi-port USB chargers, the ones that plug into your cigarette lighter. Some of them have isolated outputs, basically. They power each device separately. That stops noise from jumping between them.
Wow, we have covered a lot of ground today, haha. We've done regrounding, isolators, upgraded our wires, even learned about power line filters. But before we get too comfy, the article does have a section on prevention. Because really, who wants to troubleshoot this stuff over and over? Not me.
Me neither. That's why I like that Baboom Baboom focuses on prevention. It's one thing to know how to fix something, but it's even better to just avoid it altogether, right?
100%. So what are some top tips for, like, stopping ground loop noise from even happening?
They really stress that planning is key. Like before you even install your system, think about your wiring. Where are you going to ground everything? How can you run your wires to avoid interference? Choosing that solid grounding point from the start and sticking to it is huge.
Okay, so no more just, like, shoving wires wherever they fit.
Huh.
My glove compartment is feeling very attacked right now.
Uh-huh. A little organization makes a world of difference. And this might seem obvious, but they also talk about the importance of good components.
No more bargain bin wiring harnesses.
You got it. Investing in quality wires, connectors, components in general, it's all noise prevention. I mean, think about it. Would you trust a flimsy bridge to carry you across a river? Probably not. Same goes for your car audio.
Okay, I'm convinced. Quality over quantity. What else?
Last but not least, maintenance matters. Yeah. Your car audio system, it's not a set it and forget it thing. Check for loose or corroded connections regularly. Make sure your wires are still neat. Even just, giving your components a quick look over. That can really help stop those noise gremlins from coming back.
A little TLC for my car audio goes a long way. Got it. It's like anything else you care about. A little maintenance prevents bigger problems. It's interesting. Baboom Baboom ends by talking about getting clear, high-quality sound. It's not even just about getting rid of noise. It's about having something amazing in its place.
Yeah.
This whole deep dive has shown me how important it is to, like, be proactive about our car audio. It's not just about fixing problems. It's about making the best listening experience, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like they're saying, don't just have silence, have amazing sound. They want you to, like, really hear your music the way it was meant to be heard. Crisp, clear, full of life.
For sure. It's all about creating that perfect little audio world, right? Whether you're out driving or just stuck in traffic. And, that makes me think about you, the listener. This whole deep dive has me wondering, what's your dream setup? Like, what kind of sonic paradise are you building in your car?
Ooh, that's a great question. Are we talking like those deep bass lines you can feel in your chest? Or maybe you're all about those crystal clear vocals and instruments?
Yeah. And more importantly, how can you make sure that setup is, like, totally noise-free? We've gone over a ton of tips, all thanks to those Baboom Baboom folks.
Absolutely. And remember, this isn't about being some audio snob. It's about taking charge of your listening experience, making it as good as it can be.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
go out there, dear listeners. Get those thick wires, check those RCA cables, and don't be afraid to do a little grounding yourself.
And never forget maintenance. Trust me, your ears will thank you.
This deep dive might be over, but your journey to perfect car audio, that's just getting started. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got some rewiring to do.
Need top-quality electrical wire? Baboom Baboom's got you covered. Get your 6-pack today. Each combo comes in 6 different colors and a total of 600 feet of wire. Perfect for any project, and you won't find a better price in the industry. Head over to baboombaboom.com now to snag yours. That's baboombaboom.com.